Welcome, everybody, to this week's edition of the Liberty First Foundation Roundtable. I'm Mike Marshall, one of the co-founders of the First Foundation. With me tonight, we have Jan Rains. She's representing the LGBT community. Michael Vasquez, host of the No Sound Bites Allowed podcast and political commentator for the last 17 years. There has been a whirlwind of things going on across the Supreme Court, across federal government. I mean, everywhere. I mean, you can't turn around without hearing about something new that's happening. One of the things I kind of wanted to lead out with is Supreme Court came down with the fact that Biden does not have the authority to forgive student loans in the manner that he was going to try to forgive them. So Biden is now trying to do an end run around that Supreme Court decision using the 1965 Higher Education Act. And that's kind of what I was looking at when right before we came live. And I've been trying to say, okay, because what he claims is that there is a provision in that act that allows, under the alternative strategy, Biden said the administration will invoke the 1965 Higher Education Act to allow Secretary Cardona to compromise, waive, or release loans under certain circumstances. So supposedly somewhere in that act is a mechanism that allows for this. I have not been able to find it as of yet.
I doubt you will.
Found anything that directly relates to student loans.
I doubt you'll find it. It is the Biden administration at this point is very well known for just finding their own interpretation of whatever it is they want to do. And this is yet another extension. The reality is, at the end of the day, the only one who is allowed to forgive loans in this manner, if at all, would be Congress. It's not a presidential decision.
Supposedly, Congress has already given this authority. That's what this is all about.
Then he should be able to cite it simply, and rather than just say it's in the law, he should be able to cite the exact verbiage, which they don't do because they don't have it. That's just him trying to pass the buck and say, don't worry about it. It's okay. You don't have to check. I said so. Otherwise, you would have the verbiage.
Stuff that I've looked at in the Higher Education Act so far. And I'm up to section 422. It's pretty much everything involves institutions of higher education. Okay, I've seen very little where it is actually for the students. One of the things is the Pell Grant is a part of this law. Okay, but I have yet to see anything that relates to actual student loans and the forgiveness of student loans. Now, there are mechanisms to forgive institutions and basically say that the money that was lent to them initially has changed over to being a grant, and that there are many requirements that they have to meet in order for that to happen. But I have yet to see anything that says anything about student loans.
Well, again, people should recognize something that the media does all the time. It's a game. It's a political trick that they assume something, but they don't actually go into detail. It's like when people want the anti-Second Amendment groups, when they say, oh, well, you're not a militia. Militias are government. They can point to the exact line, and they do, in the Second Amendment, and they say, okay, this means something different, but they will give you that line. If we look at the various different powers of the government, you're talking about red flag laws, people will go to the exact verbiage and say, here's the justification, here's the power that we have. And when they don't do that, it's because they don't have that power. They are overreaching, and they just are counting on the fact that you, the public, are not smart enough, or you're too lazy to go look it up. They are counting on people's ignorance to allow them to overreach. Because again, if he has this power, the first thing they would have done before anything else is point out, here's the line that says I can do it. They would have done that a year ago when they were looking for this to get them votes in 2022. And now they're looking for votes in 2024. They still don't have a justification. You'll never find it because it doesn't exist.
Well, do you guys pick me up okay? Because I am not in my usual audio settings. All right. Yes. Let me throw something at you real quick. See my cigarettes?
Yep.
Everybody watch the cigarettes, right? I dropped them. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Or did I? Now you know what the Democrat plan is. Well, they turn around and they point to this thing saying that it has something to do with the 1968 Act, and everybody's running around trying to decipher it, figure it out, and try to, understand what the game plan is. We're expelling resources so they can do an end run around something else that they have in mind. They know they don't have the authority to do it, and we're going to sit here burning all of our efforts trying to fight them on something that doesn't exist, and they already have a plan for something else. They already have the contingency already written, except they're not going to tip their hand. They want us to sit and look at this piece of legislation that was written 50 years ago and say, well, where the hell is it? We can't find it. And we'll sit there and parse through the language, have all of our lawyers look at it, all of our constitutionalists go through it and pour over the whole damn thing. And while we are doing that, they're developing a scheme to get it passed with an end run, trying to figure out how to push it through on an executive order or in the next funding bill. That's what they're trying to do. We're wasting time trying to figure out a plan that doesn't exist instead of trying to figure out the plan they're working on. It's called sleight of hand, and that's what they're doing, just like everything else that they do. Remember, that's how they passed Obamacare.
Yeah. Backroom deals and distraction, sleight of hand, overnight. Here's the new law, 2,000 pages that no one read. As they told us, no one read it. They just passed it. Whereas Nancy Pelosi would say, you have to pass it to find out what's in it. Well, this is the same thing. You know what they'll do, Frank? They will put this in as an attachment to some other bill, an amendment to a different bill, and it'll be a poison pill. Well, with the federal funding.
Well, what they'll do is this. Mike's pointed it out that the agreement that they have to be able to expunge debt from certain avenues is because they're organizations. Okay, they're an organization, a specific college, or a culmination of colleges and educational system. They can do it because in that it's an organizational structure. When it comes to the students that have taken out these loans over the years, you're talking about students that have taken them out as individuals. So what they'll wind up doing is turning around and taking all of those loans, pooling them in together, and then having all of the people that signed up for these loans join a union.
Mm-hmm. And now it's institutional.
And then they'll turn around, play the old left-hand pocket to right-hand pocket, take all of that debt, transfer it under the auspices of the student union control, and then they'll say, see, we have the authority because this is an educational organization that just happened to absorb all that debt, and then they'll try and figure out how to do it that way, because that's exactly what the organized crime families do. This is nothing more than an attempt of organized crime. This is money laundering.
It is, and it also distracts from, and what's the consequence of this? Again, they want to keep away from, and what does this do? let's call it $1 trillion just for a number. It's more, but let's just call it $1 trillion in debt. What does that do to our economy? It inflates it.
Well, they don't listen.
It
They don't
hurts
care.
the poor.
They don't care about the economy. They care about the vote. They care about the power. They care about the control. And unfortunately, I can even tell you right now what's going to happen with what I think they're going to do has already been done. And it was done about a month ago. Do you remember when they turned around and National Firearms Policy Coalition sued about the bump stock? And they said, and the court said, okay, the guy who brought the suit is exempt from the ATF legislation. The ATF rules. Well, National Firearms Coalition policy came in and said, oh, by the way, this should extend to all of our members before the certain date. And the court said, okay. So what happened was they had a mad rush of people join their organization because anybody who joined their organization before that deadline was now going to be exempt from the rule. So what they're going to do is they're going to say, see, the courts allowed an organization that was going to be exempt from this policy to expand its base after the ruling. See, now that this act that Michael's researching has already said, okay, well, educational organizations will be able, the government can forgive certain debt. Well, if they formulate something and include everybody into it long after, even though that's not what the rule was originally designed for, they can always point back and say, well, you let all of these people who weren't part of that lawsuit become exempt after the judgment was made because they joined an organization. Well, what if all the people that have student debt want to join this organization, and then all of that debt gets pulled into one and the government can then forgive it?
But see, here's my thing. Because you're right, I could see them doing that to give them the end around and the loophole on that. But at the end of the day, they still haven't justified why we need to do this. I know it's for votes. I know why they're doing it. It's political. It's to get votes in 2024 because 58% of Democrats don't want Biden. And they need to find some way to give him a win so that Democrats can hold their nose and vote for him anyway. And they're buying votes. That's what this is. This is buying votes. And the reason why they didn't pass this in 2022 is because the 2024 election is far more important. So they held it back. Because if they really needed to do all this, they could have done this a year and a half ago. They didn't care. They need the votes for 2024. But they're still not addressing the most important part of this, because they're going to pass it. They'll find a way and they will try and ram it through. But the most important thing is, and what does this do? Oh, a bunch of college students no longer have debt. No, but everyone in America does. Everyone in America now has inflation as well as additional debt that we never wanted, that we never earned. And now it's a problem for everyone.
But again, they know that. Okay,
right,
they know that the consensus is going to be, I don't want to pay for debt I didn't accumulate. That's going to be the consensus.
Yeah. But
the consensus is too close because the people who don't want to pay the debt are also a lot of their own base. They don't want to alienate their base. So the people that will go along with it to say, oh, okay, well, it's more important for them to get all the people that are the fence sitters that have $40,000 in debt and want it, expunged, to say, well, I'll hold my nose and vote for him because I'm getting $40,000 lifted off my shoulder. They want the vote. They don't care if it ever passes. They just want the promise. They want the promise. They want to hold the carrot out long enough to get the vote. And the way they can hold that carrot out is by coming out with some convoluted plan to justify it, knowing that it's not going to see the courts for another few years anyway. So this way they get to dangle the carrot, collect the votes, break the promise, and say, we'll try again next election. They don't care. They don't care whether or not it passes, because they don't care if the economy collapses. That's part of the end goal. But what they do care about is collecting the votes based on the promise. So that's what it comes down to. You know, they don't care. This is LBJ all over again, 1968, when he signed the Civil Rights Act. I'll have those voting Democrat for the next 100 years. Well, anybody who's got college debt is now going to be indebted to the Democrat Party for alleviating them of that, and they'll be reminded every single time. Well, if we pass it, they're indebted to us. If we don't pass it, we can call the Republicans obstructionists and keep promising to do it, and we'll still get the vote. It's corrupt. The whole thing is corrupt. We all know it. That's the bottom line.
Jen, how do you feel about that? I mean, what does that make you feel?
Well, Mike and I were talking before it, and I basically told him I didn't think he'd find anything in it. They're just going to do anything and everything they can as executive orders, which he's done since the first day he got into office, to circumvent and go around Congress any way he can for his agenda.
Yeah, it's not the first time that he's done it. I mean, he's gone out before and passed. Matter of fact, he did in 2022. He said, I have the authority to do this. Passed an executive order, which was later rescinded. And then he did it anyway, because it would take too long for the courts to try and stop it. This is so evil. And it's so insidious that we are seeing this throughout the news media. They're like, oh my God, these Republicans are so evil. They don't want to stop people from accepting responsibility for something they agreed to that is on an individual basis that has nothing to do with the nation. This is not a national issue, in my opinion. But they know this. Again, this is, am I wrong? Are we wrong, Jen? Do you think that this is about votes, or is it about something else?
Oh, no, it's all about votes. It's all it's ever been about. It's been going this way for God, I don't know how many elections now. I mean, Frank said it the best. We're going to make a promise, vote for us, and then we'll still not get anything done. And then next time election comes up, we're either going to blame it on the other side because nothing has happened or has been done, but we'll make you that promise again that if you vote for us, it'll happen.
Oh, yeah. It kind of reminds me of Obama 20 times in a row saying that he doesn't have the constitutional power to give a path to citizenship to illegal aliens. And then in 2012, as he's in the throes of re-election, he goes and says, oh, by the way, I now have the power to do it. Never had the power before, came out publicly and said 20 times directly that he didn't have the power, and then assumed the power and did it anyway. Why? Because of votes. So I think we're looking at another scenario just like that. The shell game of, I don't have the power, I can't do it, but I'm going to do it anyway because you're going to vote for me. And now, like you say, Frank, now you owe me. This is illegal immigration all over. You owe me. And if you don't keep voting for me, the guys that do get in, we're going to take it away from you.
And because the common American voter doesn't understand where the powers actually lie and that these things have to be legislated, they'll believe the line that they're told them. Because
okay, I found the section.
Americans are stupidly optimistic sometimes.
Okay, so here's how he's going to do it. Section 428K, Title 20 USC 1078-11, loan forgiveness for service in areas of national need.
Say what?
Loan forgiveness for service in areas of national need.
Oh, this is what they tried. Now, this
But
is
he's
what they
not
tried to
doing it
roll
in
this shit
areas
in.
of national need. He's just saying, I'm forgiving this many thousands of people with
And he
debt.
will say that all of those people
Serve a national
are
purpose.
serving a national need.
They're
Wait a
gonna.
minute.
This is gonna be okay. In 2020, you weren't considered. What did they say?
Essential.
Essential. But now everybody's essential, and they're going to turn around and they're going to say, "Well, remember how they said Obamacare was necessary because we all participate in the medical industry, whether we have health care or not. We all are part of the industry, even though we have it or we don't have it." Well, they're going to say all of these people are an essential part of our economy. They all serve an essential need in our economy in whatever their field, and they'll roll it in. Do you remember they also did this whole thing about
Okay, so here's where areas of national
nurses,
need are.
doctors? Spend 2 years in the Peace Corps. We'll excuse this, and we'll do that.
Here's areas of national need as defined by this rule. Okay, areas of national need for the purposes of this section, an individual is employed in an area of national need if the individual meets the requirements of one of the following. 1, early childhood educators. So basically anybody that does
Everyone with a
daycare.
kid.
Yep.
Nurses. Anybody that does any type of at-home care. Foreign language specialists. Anybody that knows a second language. Librarians. Qualified teachers serving students who are limited English proficient, low-income communities, or underrepresented populations. Speech language pathologists and audiologists. Public sector employees. Nutrition professionals. Medical specialists.
Yeah. I get
STEM
it.
employees.
And
Physical
they'll-
therapists, superintendents,
and they will
and other
muddy-
administrators.
They will muddy the
Facial
waters of
therapist.
every one of those categories to be able to include anyone.
Yep.
They'll
But
muddy. Oh
it's-
wait, I only speak English. Yeah, but where are you from? I'm from Louisiana. Well, people in Louisiana speak a little bit of a different language than people in Chicago, so I guess you are bilingual. Congratulations, here's your loan forgiveness.
Look, they can use all the legalese they want to try and twist this, to try and reinterpret and redefine every part of it. I mean, they're happy to redefine things. They redefined recession. They redefined man and woman. They will redefine this as well to be able to try and make it mean whatever it needs to mean to get the votes, to get this at least close to being passed so that they can get the votes in the next election. But at the end of the day, I don't want the debt of someone else. No one's accepting the debt for my mortgage. No one's paying my bills. Why am I paying for some 18-year-old who decided that they want to specialize in lesbian dance or African studies? I'm not interested in any of that. I don't want to pay that debt. I don't think that's a real job. I don't want it.
Yeah,
Well,
somebody
my
else
thing
does.
is, I want to know if this does eventually pass and they get their debt forgiven, are we going to get part of their PhDs and
All
you
the
know,
benefits? Do we get any of the
think
benefits?
We're paying for it.
Yeah, we're paying for it, but do we get any of the benefits? What's the benefit to me? I know what the debt
You
will
get
be.
no
to
benefit.
me.
Okay. And honestly, here's the thing. And what they are claiming is this is already money that's been paid. That is the whole student loan forgiveness group advocates are all saying, well, this is money that's already been paid, that the federal government has already paid. Okay. So it's already money that's gone.
Well,
So
that's
it's not
true.
going to inflate anything. It's not going to change anything. It's not going to change the deficit. It's not going to change any of that. There's going to be no impact on anybody.
Okay, well, let's debunk that real quick. I went to the bank and I got a loan for my mortgage for my house. The mortgage was paid. Under that same logic, the bank already paid for the house. So why should I pay for it? Because there's still a debt, because you have to repay the loan. It was a loan. They forwarded the money in the hopes of getting it repaid with interest.
What they're trying to claim, okay, and hear me out. What they're trying to claim is that this will not increase the deficit anymore.
That's a lie.
Because the loans have already been made. The impact on the deficit's already happened. This is not going to Congress isn't going to have to spend more money because they've already spent that money in making these loans to begin with.
No, that's not true.
It's not true.
Okay. It violates basic finance.
The thing is yeah, the government may have already put this money out. Okay. But it was money that they really, number one, constitutionally had no authority of loaning out to begin with. Okay. But number two, it was taken from some other program on the condition that this money would be repaid back so that program would have it available when it came time for that program's need of it.
It's a loan. In other words, it's a loan. It needs to be repaid.
Okay.
This is money
and a lot of that money came from the Social Security Fund.
Yeah.
Okay. And that was one of the ways that they were actually trying to shore up the Social Security Fund, was making these educational loans at 2.5%, 3.1%, whatever interest rate was on the loan, so that when the money came back, it was actually more than what they lent out in order to shore up the Social Security Fund. Well, now you go and forgive this. Now all that money that was robbed out of, let's say, Social Security Fund or Veterans Benefits or whatever other fund that they stole it out of, okay, it's no longer there.
Yeah.
So now that has even a larger deficit. And my guess is most of this came out of the Social Security Fund because there is a huge push to take the cap away from the amount of money that people have to pay in the Social Security Fund, i.e., anybody over a certain income will have to start paying even more into Social Security, even though they won't be allowed to draw anymore.
Yeah, but that's, again, taxing the rich, which they assume is the ultimate answer to everything. We'll just increase taxes.
Well, that's
resolve anything.
What they're trying to claim is the reason why the Social Security Fund is actually in trouble is because the rich people don't pay enough into it.
Which is stupid.
Social Security's in trouble because the government can't keep their damn hands out of it.
Exactly. That's the exact reason.
Nancy Pelosi
and there's some people that are trying
for an impeachment.
There are some people that are trying to twist the reason why the Social Security Fund is in trouble is because there's too many boomers drawing on it. People of the baby boom generation, which are all retiring right now. Okay, no, that's not it. Okay, first off, Social Security is a Ponzi scheme. It's always been destined to collapse.
Yes.
Okay, I mean that's a given from the beginning. The next thing is to make this house of cards even more unstable. The federal government started dipping its money because they said, "Oh, we got this nice big pool of money sitting over here that's not doing anything, so we'll just borrow from it, and we can get paid back before it's needed."
When they
guess what? They borrowed so much from it that they can't pay it back now.
When they originally set up Social Security, government wasn't supposed to be able to touch it. The Democrats, when they were in control, are the ones that made the exception to the rule.
Yeah, which always, anything that's an exception is a rule when it comes to government. It was always built as a Ponzi scheme, and to explain that for people who don't know, the the only way that Social Security works is if you have 2 to 3 people paying in for every one person getting paid out. And they created it at a time when we had our population increasing and the number of people going into work was increasing. They never accounted for the baby boomer generation or the baby boomer generation retiring, not dying off, which is why they set the age of retirement of receiving the benefits at 65 and a half, because most people would die before they would ever get the money. So that
Now it's
another
up,
way to make
up
sure.
to 67.
Yeah. And they start paying out at 57, half
No,
the benefits.
67.
67? No, early. You can get early benefits at 57. 57 and a half. You can start getting half benefits. But people are living into their 70s and they're trying to extend it as much as they can so that they don't have to pay out because they can't afford this. It was never built to be affordable. It was because it was bad legislation in the first part because no one took into account what could happen in the future. What if we have more people retiring than going into the workforce? They never imagined that that would ever happen. And thus where we have a problem. But it gets even worse. Because, again, not only are these funds not available, but the answer is they have to increase spending, which means it's inflationary. By every definition, the money is not being repaid. We need more money to replace that money. Therefore, we must print more money. It is inflationary. The poor are being decimated before our eyes. You're not supposed to think about any of that. You're not supposed to say anything. And if you do, you're just evil because you don't want kids to do well we don't want them to succeed in life because they made a deal and they signed onto a contract that I had nothing to control over.
Well, here's the thing. Okay, Social Security is originally age 65. Then in 56, they reduced that age to 62, but if you start drawing at 62, your benefits would be reduced to account for the longer period for which they would be received. Okay, now they are trying to, and actually they have extended the date up to receive full benefits up to 67. Okay, you can still start drawing at 62, but you're going to receive substantially less because they've increased the full rate to 67.
But all of this is the same problem. It's money we don't have. This is all inflationary. This is all hurting. And they're counting on the fact that it's math and it's numbers. So the American people will drone it out and they will ignore it. And the only people who are going to pay attention are the youth who don't normally come out and vote. And this is a way to buy their votes, to make them come out and be subservient to Democrats and progressives to say, oh, if you don't vote for us, you're always going to owe this money that you unilaterally and without any provocation accepted as a debt. You are no longer accountable. We're going to cradle to grave take care of you. It's insulting at every level. There is no positive to this. None.
Then not only that, okay, Social Security was originally deemed as a retirement benefit. Okay, that was paid by the federal government, i.e., you paid in X number of dollars per year from each of your paychecks over the course of life, and you paid into this fund. Okay, and at the end of your career, you could start pulling out of that fund. Okay, and everybody's money was pulled in. It was supposed to draw interest and all this other good stuff. It's supposed to work for you. And that was until Congress started getting its hands on it. Okay, and initially, yeah, it sounds like it's a great program. But again, like you said, Michael, and like a lot of people pointed out over the course of history, and even people that were against Social Security back when it was instituted, it's a house of cards waiting to collapse because anytime the ratio is not maintained, Social Security starts failing. Okay. If you don't have the proper number ratio of workers paying into Social Security compared to those taking out of Social Security, the fund starts collapsing. And when that ratio gets out of sync, it doesn't work. Okay. Just like every other Ponzi scheme. Now, the other caveat is, like I said, Congress started dipping into this fund as well and claiming that they would pay it back with interest. Well, they keep, every time they turn around, in order to pay for the bills that they can't pay, they take more out of Social Security. And they keep doing this. It's a perpetual cycle.
Yeah, we've already overspent it, but we decades ago overspent all of Social Security, and we can't repay this. This is another way to kick it down the road. And again, this is meant to get people, the youth, who have an obligation to buy in. You're buying their votes at the cost of the poor, who will have all of their costs inflated and destroy future generations. There is no positive to this, and there is no need for this. This isn't necessary. But it is a quick, easy fix. Again, why? Because Biden needs a win. He needs something positive to give Democrats a reason to vote for him when 58% don't want to see him even in the race. They are just trying to shore up their political objectives. This is purely political. This has nothing to do with Constitution, the power of the government. This is purely politics.
Well, I did some math on this quite a while back. Okay, and I looked at the maximum payment that a person could receive from Social Security, and is a little over $3,000 per month. And I started figuring, okay, if we paid into a retirement fund and it only had a return of 5%.
Oh, you'd blow it away.
Okay. Yeah. And that's just a 5%. Most retirement funds have a return of anywhere from 7 to 12%.
Yeah. 8.5% average annually over the last 40 years.
Okay. So even at 5%, if they took the same money that was being paid into Social Security right now and put it into a retirement fund, everybody would be in much better shape. Because number one, their money's not going to pay somebody else.
Yeah, they have security over their funds. This was a proposal under the Bush administration in 2002, as I recall. That was a reform that we tried to push through. And Democrats said, no, you can't do that, because what if there's a stock market crash like in 2001, and then everyone loses everything? Except the answer is, unless America disappears within 5 years, that's not real. That's not true.
Well, okay, let's. I'm going to look up something. So go ahead and continue that. But if we look at what happened with the stock market in the 1929,
What, the Great Depression?
Yeah. Okay.
Stock market crashed and then it recovered.
It did, and it recovered leaps and bounds above what it was.
Yeah. Same thing happened in 2001, right after 9/11.
And every time it has done this, when it came back even better than it was prior to the crash.
Do you know why?
The only one now, the crash of 1929 did take longer to recover.
Partially because of the reforms.
Over 20 years for it to recover, but it did recover.
Yeah, it was, the amount of damage was extended because of the policies that were initiated during the Great Depression. They actually extended the time of recovery.
Right.
But do you know why every time there's a major crash, which again, I point to 2001, right after 9/11, which was when I was a stockbroker, one of the big things that had to be pointed out to everyone. Why did it recover, and why do we always recover? The answer to that is actually very simple. It's because as long as America exists and we continue to develop, we still have economy going forward, we will recover any of the losses. It's only a crash is only going to devastate you if one, you panic and pull out your money instantaneously at the loss, and two, you don't believe America will continue to exist. Those are the only two times you'll lose over time.
Okay. So, Peter, okay, we love having Peter on. He's been a guest on the show many times, and he's always in chat with us. So he says, poking the bear. Same can be said about crypto markets. Just saying.
No, they can't.
And I'm going to disagree with you on that, Peter.
Massively.
And the biggest reason why crypto markets, there's nothing backing cryptos.
They have no assets.
There's the only thing that's backing it is some algorithm sitting on some machine someplace. Okay. People are saying, okay, yeah, we're going to value Bitcoin at this today. Well, where's that come from? Where's that valuation coming from?
Emotion.
Okay, that's it exactly. Okay. I don't see cryptos as ever being a long-term sustainable type of currency.
Well,
Okay,
remember they said crypto is proof against inflation until we saw that it isn't. They said crypto was secure until we saw Sam Friedman Banks or Bankman-Fried. No, Friedman Bank. And he proved, no, it's not. We've seen a lot of everything they've said about crypto is wrong because at the end of the day, there is no asset to value it by. It is only based on emotion. And therefore, as long as there is emotion and someone says there's a value, it has a value. The moment everyone says, I want an asset, it disappears. It is the biggest, most elaborate Ponzi scheme. It is slightly better than NFTs.
Okay.
Same concept, though.
We've seen it happen with Bitcoin as a prime example. Okay, Bitcoin was up around 50, 60. I think it reached 70,000 at one point.
72,000, as I recall.
Okay, and then all of a sudden it crashed down to 20,000.
Yeah.
Okay, and it continued to drop and drop and drop and drop day after day after day. And then all of a sudden it started recovering again. Okay, and it's not stable in any way, shape, or form.
Again, ultimately,
there is nothing to maintain its stability. I mean, plain and simple. All it takes to crash any cryptocurrency is for people to lose faith in it.
Mm-hmm.
That's all it takes.
In ways, that's very similar to the U.S. dollar at this point.
It is.
Because we have so much.
It is. Okay. When it was still based on the gold standard, not so much. Or on some type of commodity, not so much. But now that it's based upon debt, yeah.
Peter says we shouldn't do this live. I've had this argument with people or this discussion with people about crypto for years now. And I've yet to find any sustaining value in crypto. And again, but that's a separate argument than Social Security, a separate argument than the national debt and the way we're spending money. And in fact, maybe we should transition here because these are all big problems. But perhaps the biggest problem, one of the bigger problems that they're trying to distract from is they're saying, well, it's Bidenomics. Biden has now, just like Dark Brandon and Let's go, Brandon. They're now trying to incorporate that into Bidenomics, and they're trying to make that sound like a positive, even though there's 17% inflation since the day that he walked into office. And they're trying to make you think that everything's fantastic. There's all rainbows. The economy is doing fantastic. Inflation is still high and remaining high. We still have unemployment increasing. The economy is falling apart. But yeah,
Real estate's price
Bidenomics and everything is great.
for the largest amount in 11 years. Lost all your audio, Michael.
Can you hear me now?
Now again.
Okay. I'm running. Sorry, I'm running in the background a video on something we're probably going to talk about in a little bit, which is affirmative action. And the decision that the Supreme Court on that
later.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Bidenomics.
It's ridiculous how they're trying to make it a positive. We have more inflation. We have more poverty. We have more people that are starving and hungry. We have more people who are angry and upset about their economic outcome. Everyone can agree that 4 years ago, you were doing better than you are today. And yet he's like, it's all rainbows. It's fantastic. Bidenomics. Don't you want more of it? No.
Well, okay, here's the thing. Okay.
Save me here, Jan. Am I
Pretty
wrong,
much
Jan?
everything, every consumer good out there has increased in price by double digits in the last 3 years.
Yes.
Okay. By at least double digits.
That's a fact. Yes.
Okay. With the exception of home prices.
They have increased.
No. $200 trillion loss in real estate value.
Okay, they must have retreated back.
Largest
for a while.
loss in real estate value in over 11 years. Okay. So even though you had this investment that you thought was going to appreciate over your lifetime, guess what? Your investment just got less.
Okay, I've seen some. Well, maybe it's anecdotal. We've been seeing a lot of buying by BlackRock and some other institutions, which have artificially raised the value in certain places. But if you're taking into account places like New York City, where the values drop because population is evacuating, yeah, I guess that would throw it off.
No, across the nation, yeah, there are some housing markets that have increased, but across the nation, on average, housing prices have dropped the most they have in over 11 years.
But it's Bidenomics, folks. It's good for you. You want more Bidenomics, don't you?
Okay.
It's such a good
and
feeling.
What happened 11 years ago? The housing bubble.
Yeah.
That was what was going on 11 years ago. So we are seeing a significant drop in the cost of houses or a cost of real estate in a condition that's worse than what happened during the housing bubble.
Well, somebody please tell me when the hell that happens in North Carolina. Because I'm actively looking for up to 10 acres of property so that we can build the Liberty First Foundation firing range, and I can't find anything. At least nothing that's not being gobbled up by developers. You know,
well,
I mean,
that's the thing is when prices drop like this, developers buy up left and right.
Listen, the prices where I'm at, we have had a literal 80% equity boost in the last 4 years on our home. 80%. Our price of our home has nearly doubled in 4 years. Maybe it's because Charlotte is an extremely hot market and because North Carolina's got a lot more freedoms than the other states and people are moving there. Real estate prices in Florida are up. The real estate prices in a lot of the free states are up. But as far as we've been waiting and praying for the bubble to break where we're at, only because as the price of houses go up, our assessments are going to go up, which means our taxes are going to go up. And with more people moving into our communities and our population numbers exploding, there's going to be a lot more taxing of the infrastructure, the roads, the highways, the electrical grid, the school system. Everything is going to have to expand exponentially to cover the amount of people that have been moving into North Carolina and the other free states. And if you look at free market economics, as you have more demand and limited supply, the price goes up on the supply. Now, where I was looking in property now, I'm looking literally an hour away from my home now, where I was looking 30 minutes away from my home 6 months ago. So I think if we're going to sit and look at where the real estate value is, we've got to break it down into different categories, because you have some states that are losing value because companies and people are moving out of them, abandoning stuff and taking what they can get for the property they have. And that's driving the price down because you now have a buyer's market rather than a seller's market.
Actually, forgive me. It's not the biggest drop in 11 years. It's the first drop in 11 years.
Mm-hmm. That sounds right. Mm-hmm.
Okay. The National Home Price Index fell 0.2% in April, the first decline since April of 2012. In March, it actually rose by 0.7% from a year earlier. Okay, first year-over-year decline in home prices in 11 years. And they are predicting that this will continue at least for the short term.
Yeah, I'm not surprised, because the economy is in a recession, and we've been in a recession since the summer of 2022, and we will continue to be in a recession until 2025. Jan, looking at West Virginia, has Bidenomics made anything better? Is anything cheaper that you buy in West Virginia?
No, keeps getting more expensive. Go to the groceries. It's like I said, I don't know if it was, I think it was a couple weeks ago we were talking about it. And I said, you go to the grocery store and you spend $100 and you're lucky to walk out with 2 bags.
Hell, you're lucky to have 1 bag full.
Exactly.
This is ridiculous. And yet
that's why I was laughing when you were talking and saying the Bidenomics. When I saw that on an article, of course I went and read the article, but when I saw that as a headline of an article, Bidenomics,
that's his new speech.
I started laughing because it's going to go down in history as such a disgrace to him. You know, I remember when they talked about Reaganomics and how bad Reaganomics was. And then by the time I went to business college, Reaganomics, we were studying it in economic class, and it showed how good it was. Mm-hmm. And I just keep thinking there's going to come a time where they're going to start teaching this in school, and they're going to talk about what a joke it was.
Okay, so this is from NBC News. Sales of existing homes fell again in April, with the median home price slipping to $389,000, according to a new report from the National Association of Realtors. Okay. It's the biggest decline in a decade.
But
Existing
talk-
home sales dropped 20% from the last year.
yeah,
Okay, so essentially all the way across the board, as far as home sales go, it's tanking. Okay, it's not quite as bad as the housing bubble, but it shit's dropping. Okay, there are some markets, and it's just like even with the housing bubble, there were some markets during the housing bubble that still increased, but the majority of markets were failing. Okay, housing prices were dropping by quite a bit. Okay, and we're seeing it now.
Like I said, I just hope that property prices drop, because my situation is I'm actually looking for a very undesirable piece of property. I want a piece of property that builders won't want because it'll be so rough and hilly and full of swamp gas that it would be too expensive for them to want to build on. Because for me, that's perfect for what I need it for. And
Actually, in
I
North
still can't find
Carolina,
it.
you get around Havelock and New River area. There's a lot of places that you can't build because you can't put a septic tank in.
Oh yeah, but again, I have to be within an hour of Charlotte. Otherwise, it doesn't make financial sense for me to be able to do what I have to do.
But I
Because
do know that there's a lot of areas down there because when I was looking in that area, when I was living there, there's a lot of places that were essentially worthless to anybody because as far as building anything on, because you couldn't put any type of septic system in.
no.
Okay, I was wondering why the prices of that land was so cheap.
Yeah, come to West Virginia, guys.
Eventually they'll figure out how to do municipal sewer systems in those areas, and people will be able to build on them. People put cabins on the side of mountains. They drill wells 5,000 feet before they hit water. I'm sure somebody will figure that out too.
Well, the problem is land is so wet that it can't percolate in order for a septic system to work properly. So, yeah, if you can put a sewage system in there, you're fine.
Yeah, and where there's a will, there's a way.
If you can't get the land to percolate, you can't run a septic system.
Just remember, when it comes to land, they ain't making more of it.
No.
Unless you're in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
Well, even that's borrowed land. It's borrowed from someplace else.
Yeah. True.
I did find one piece of property the other night, and it would be absolutely perfect for what I need. Comes with a 45 by 110 foot building. It's 8 acres of densely wooded land with 1.5 acres of wide open terrain, connected to a city sewer, city water, and it's out of the city jurisdiction, so you could actually shoot there. So I could build my range. The only problem, the other side of the fence is the airport. And I don't think they're gonna let me have a bunch of people up there letting loose their firearms into a berm no matter how high I build it. Not if they have planes coming down, within eye shot of where I'm gonna be. So
pretty sure of that one.
Had to scratch that one off the potential list. It's getting rough. No, I mean, I thought that we would have opportunities in North Carolina, or I'd be able to pick something up that's, it's great. But the cities have slowly expanded their reach, and as long as you the cities expanding around, they have the you can't shoot within city limits thing. You know, you have people that live in the city that have 50-acre plots of land are not allowed to use them. It's insane. And I'm not going to, I don't feel like going and kissing anybody's ring and asking for special dispensation so I could use my property that I buy. And no, Jan, I can't come to West Virginia. I might be able to pass through, but that's too big of a commute, and I've already relocated everything to where I am. We can't do it again. Not at least for in this lifetime. I think we're staying put where we are. And besides, our friend is going to be the next governor, so how could we? Oh, then again, I don't know. Having a governor is in your Rolodex is always a good thing.
Never a bad feeling.
Nah.
Sorry about that.
We would never ask him for anything anyway. We know that he's going to do fantastic by the state of North Carolina. He's going to be a governor that's going to lead this state to prosperity. We're very, very optimistic about his upcoming tenure. Should the people of North Carolina be smart enough to vote him in?
Yes, Mark Robinson is awesome guy. So, didn't want to top into another Supreme Court ruling this week that basically nixed affirmative action for colleges.
Hooray!
I actually agree with you 100% on that, Michael. There's a lot of people that are saying that this is a travesty and racist by a extremist right-wing court, but I think this is one of the best things that could have happened.
Affirmative action was what's racist.
Well, it is.
Well, the best thing they could ever do.
Now, President Biden said he disagreed with the decision and asked the Education Department to explore policies that could help colleges build diverse student bodies. He also pushed against policies like legacy preferences, admission boosts given to children of alumni that tend to white wealthy students.
Look,
Okay, and that's what they always claim is, well, you've got these legacy preferences.
Well, let's break this down for a second, because literally, as we're speaking, I'm uploading a almost hour and a half long video going over this whole thing, this very same issue. First, they're suddenly turning around and saying that Clarence Thomas is somehow a race traitor and evil. He's an Uncle Tom for deciding constitutionality. And this is, talk about racism. There's your blatant racism. It's as bad as when they put on the front page of the LA Times that Larry Elder is the face of white supremacy. You want to talk about racism? There's your racism. But looking at this, is it at its beginning, and no one disagreed with this. Here's the thing that no one's disagreed with. Affirmative action is racist. No one disagrees with it. The question that they are arguing is it a necessary racist action in America? That's the actual argument made by Harvard and the University of North Carolina, that it is racist, it is segregationist, it is a prejudice and a bias, but it's necessary. And the question in front of the Supreme Court is, does the United States government have the right to violate the 14th Amendment in favor of a political gain of trying to balance or make equitable the various peoples? And the answer is no. It is not constitutional. It violates the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, the 14th Amendment. It violates intrinsic human rights because it is a discrimination And no one disputes this. It is discriminating against a group of people based on the color of their skin. That is what affirmative action is. The question was, it was always meant to be temporary, and even Justice Sotomayor does not dispute it was always meant to be limited in its reach and its time frame. And her argument is, but we still need it because of politics. Sorry, that's not real. That's not true. I read the decision. I read the dissent. I have it quoted. This woman is out of her mind. She's making a political argument, not a constitutional one. She's telling us why her feelings say we need affirmative action and why her politics want affirmative action. But there is no answer why it's constitutional, because it's not.
Well,
Well,
one of the ones that got me was AOC put out, nothing screams racism and white supremacy like not being able to use your skin color to get into college.
What? Say that again, please.
Nothing screams racism and white supremacy like not being able to use your skin color to get into college.
So
Now,
it's
is
racist to not use racism to get a benefit.
Exactly.
Now, is that from her? Is that from the authentic
Yes,
Alexandria
that's her Twitter
Ocasio-Cortez?
account. Yeah, she tweeted
Or-
that out today.
So that's not the parody account?
No.
All right, well, since we're going to be in the mood for sharing, let me share one with y'all. And I just said y'all. I'm going to adopt some of my adopted Southern culture. This is the one of Biden's field agents. I want you to read this. This is her quote. This is her tweet from yesterday. Today's Supreme Court decision is a direct attack on Black people. No Black person will be able to succeed in a merit-based system, which is exactly why affirmative action-based programs were needed. Today's decision is a travesty.
That is insulting and racist. That is dehumanizing. It is assuming that Black people, minorities, do not have agency in their own lives and that they cannot achieve anything without government stepping in for them.
No,
right.
she's literally saying that Blacks have no intelligence.
Right.
That's what I just said. Yes. They have no agency.
Right.
You're not capable
Now-
of being a regular human being.
Now, this brain trust Erica Marsh gets picked apart on Twitter every day. Every day. She is a fucking dimwit of the nth degree. Okay, she could not think her way out of a paper bag. I'm pretty sure that the Ziploc bags with the little handle on them probably baffle and befuddle her to begin with. But she is a field operations agent for the Biden campaign.
No kidding.
And she has tried, I don't know how many times now, to deflect from what she wrote. And she is being lambasted on Twitter. And then all of the leftists that have come to her defense are making it worse. All of these white leftists, these white pearl-clutching leftists are coming to her defense by further belittling Black people.
Well, the other one that cracked me up was Biden condemns the Supreme Court's decision that it's unconstitutional to use race as a factor in college admission. Well, they're using race.
These people are so brain dead that they don't understand what they are actually saying here. They are saying that prejudice, and Sotomayor says it very clearly throughout, that prejudice and bias is okay because it's politically advantageous, that they want to promote and continue to use bias and prejudice because Black people, minorities, women are not capable of being able to operate at the same level. Look, you can make the argument that we needed, and I've made the argument in fact, in my video, that affirmative action was just like what we saw in the transition. We transitioned from slavery, and then we transitioned into Jim Crow, the black codes of Congress. We went into the civil rights movement. We then transitioned into our affirmative action, and we have transitioned out of that. This is a process and a path that America has been on. We have improved and we have moved beyond each and every one of these things. That's why the Bureau of the Freedman, what is it? Hang on. They called it I want to quote this right. The Freedman Bureau Act no longer applies. Why? We moved beyond it. These were steps to move us further and further down the line into being an integrated nation. That's the whole point. We were using it to integrate. You can't get much more integrated than interracial marriages, children who are biracial, having them as presidents of the United States and the vice president of the United States. We've broken all the glass ceilings. Secretary of State, the chief of staff, we've got it all. Vivek Ramaswamy is running for president. We had Tim Scott running for president. He's a senator. What else? What glass ceiling have we not broken here? And they tell me, and they're telling me at the same time that they're showing me mayors and all these people who have done so well, that it's all going to just disappear if they don't continue to have prejudice and racism omnipresent.
Okay, so here's
Sorry, I'm ranting. I'm
Boards of
upset.
the University said Thursday they were disappointed by what they see as a blow to diversity. Yet many also voiced optimism that they would find a new way to admit more Black and Hispanic students. Notice they didn't say Asian.
Of course not. They hate the Asians. They want to get kicked them
Notice
out.
they didn't say Native Americans, which
They
I
don't
hate the
exist.
term. Or several other minority groups. They specifically said Black and Hispanic students, despite evidence that eliminating practice often leads to steep enrollment decreases among them. President Joe Biden said he disagreed with the decision and asked the Education Department to explore policies that could help colleges build diverse student bodies. He also pushed against policies like legacy preferences, admissions boosts given to children of alumni that tend to help white wealthy students. We should never allow the country to walk away from the dream upon which it was founded, Biden told reporters. We need a path forward, a path consistent with a law that protects diversity and expands opportunity.
Can we take a moment to recognize that the United States is one of the most diverse nations in the world? We already have diversity. We have people from every part of the world, every religion.
Everybody has a right to that American dream. They're taking the right away from so many people because of diversity, because of your color.
Well, if we want to follow the leftist playbook, because believe me, I was sitting watching a lot on Twitter about what was going on, and a lot of the leftist talking heads, just to show you where their mind is, they're looking for a workaround, to now compensate for the admissions process now that affirmative action has been ruled unconstitutional, by saying, well, if we want to get more Blacks into the colleges, we'll just lower the standards. Do you understand what you just said? Do you understand what you just said? You just said Blacks are not smart enough to get into the colleges. So in order to bring the number up, you have to lower the standards to compensate for it.
But they've already been lowering the standards to get into college before this even came about.
Right. But this is a picture of Eric.
Standards that were lowered were for specific ethnic groups.
Right. Well, this is the picture of
Erica
Erica
raised
Marsh.
for other ethnic groups.
This is basically what she said in her apology. If you actually took her apology for her ridiculous tweet, and she said, I didn't say blacks were dumb. If they were smarter, they'd understand that. That's pretty much the gist of what she said. If you took her apology and broke it down and said, well, what are you trying to say? It's the same as these people that say blacks can't get IDs. Blacks don't know how to vote. Blacks don't know how to do this. What are you talking about? What the hell are you talking about?
What gets me is it's always the white people that are saying it.
Well, listen, it's the leftists, regardless of color. The same people that turn around and say that blacks aren't smart enough to get into colleges and blacks aren't smart enough to get an ID to vote are the same people that look at what's going on at the southern border and say, who's going to pick our vegetables if we don't let these people in? Who's going to clean our hospital rooms? Who's going to make our beds in the hotels? Because they look at people as if they're substandard. As if they're subhuman, as if the people that come from foreign countries to America don't have a dream to aspire to. Oh, no, God forbid a Mexican guy, a Brazilian guy, a Costa Rican guy, girl, whatever, wants to come to America and pursue a career in medicine, wants to pursue a career in law, wants to pursue a career in engineering, wants to become an architect, wants to do whatever they want to do. They don't look at them as having those kinds of dreams. They look at them as menial labor. And that's all they see. And you saw this when Kelly Osbourne on The View said, well, who's going to pick our vegetables? Who's going to pick our guacamole? Is that all that you think these people are capable of?
Yes, that's what the left thinks.
Right. That's your justification for wanting illegal immigrants because you to be part of the American fabric. You want them to be substandard to the American fabric. You don't want them to achieve greatness. You don't want them to get into the competitive realm of the liberal elite that are out there. No, you want to keep them down by letting them do the jobs that you don't want to do. So in doing so, you prevent them from doing the jobs you do. You want to have your profession, and you don't want to have it watered down. You don't want to have people of different ethnicities come in legally and pursue and achieve the dream that you achieved. You would rather that you just relinquish them to a substandard way of life because you don't expect more from them. You don't want more from them because you don't believe they could do more than that. And that's exactly the same thing with affirmative action. They do not believe that African Americans, and I hate using that term because 70% of blacks in America are not from the subcontinent of Africa. There's a lot of blacks that come from every nation in the world. Just because you're here don't mean you're from Africa. 5-6 generations away, you're not African anymore. You're American. I'm sorry. You're American.
Yeah, it's pretty simple.
I don't call myself Italian American. I'm part Cherokee. I don't call myself Native American. I'm an American. We're all Americans. We live under one flag, and that's the flag we're all supposed to live under. And if we can't prosper under that, under our own power, it's not for government to decide who's going to pick a winner and who's going to pick a loser. And that's what these people want to do. They just want to keep people in a position where they can control them. They don't want them to achieve greatness. I want people to come to America with their hands balled up in fists, want to fight for the American dream, want to earn their way through, want to do what they have to do. My old neighbor in Brooklyn was from Sicily. He still only can piece together 7 or 8 words in English. Owned a very successful painting company, had 50 employees. He managed to buy 2 houses, buy a home back in Italy, live the American dream, and he did it by coming here legally. That dream is unobtainable by somebody who comes here that has to falsify their paperwork and use some dead person's social security number in order to get a job to pass the E-Verify check. They would prefer that they do that. And it's sickening.
When we look at it and we think about this, progressive policies are meant to dehumanize. They don't like women. They don't like minorities. They don't like anyone who asks questions. They want control over people. That's what affirmative action, and more importantly, the continuation of affirmative action is all about. It is about dehumanizing and having control. You are too dumb to understand and do this yourself. Therefore, you must submit to the government. The government will decide it all for you. You cannot you cannot take action for yourself. You are a child. And the government must take care of you because you can't do it. That they're saying that to women, and they're saying that to every minority. At the end of the day, everything is an excuse trying to hide from the fact, or assuming you're not going to realize that they are dehumanizing minorities and women. And everyone who wants to go, oh my God, take away the emotion and look at what they are saying. You cannot succeed without some agency, a government, using its full weight and power to take care of you. How dehumanizing is that? You're not a human being. You are subhuman. And you can only be elevated to the glorious levels of humanity if you have the full weight and power of the government. And if you do not continue to support the people who have raised you up, you are somehow going to fall. They somehow believe that without affirmative action, that every black person in America, every woman in America are suddenly going to lose every single right they have ever had because they will no longer vote, they will no longer read, they will no longer go to work, they will no longer be able to actually do work. Like somehow we lose everything. It is a mockery of reality. It is insulting. It makes me angry, guys. You just don't understand how angry, because it is such an insult to minorities and to women and to anyone who's not a progressive. This is racism and prejudice, blatant racism and prejudice splattered all over our lives. And Justice Sotomayor is lavishing in this. She's wallowing in this as she is using the Supreme Court to push pure propaganda. This isn't constitutional by definition, and she knows it, and she doesn't care. It's very upsetting.
Here's her answer. People don't have to live in constant fear of the Supreme Court. This is Senator Tina Smith. We can't sit on our hands while these justices carry out the bidding of right-wing organizations. Expand the court.
Destroy the Supreme Court. Okay, they're back to destroying the Supreme Court again, making it a political tool.
Yeah, they don't like the fact that the court right now leans to the right. So instead of having a court that leans to the right, it's really going to be temporary because the court shifts as judges come and go. No, they just want to pack the court to the left permanently, and that'll be fair. It's not fair to have a duration of time where it leans to the right. No, it'll only be fair if it's a permanent lean to the left.
Not even just a lean to the left. It has to be progressive, and it has to agree with them. Otherwise, you have to put more people on until they get the answer that they want, which is got nothing to do with justice, which is why they don't use justice. They have social justice or racial justice because it's not about justice. It's about a political agenda. This is so insulting. And they're constantly doing all of this to avoid dealing with the root answer. You cannot look anyone in the eye and honestly say that affirmative action is not racist and prejudiced. It is by definition. And everyone in that courtroom, Harvard, University of North Carolina, every single one of those justices, anyone who's paying attention knows that it is. If you don't believe that, read the Declaration of Independence, read the 14th Amendment, and you will see that it is by definition racist, prejudiced, and they're fighting to allow racism and prejudice in America. They are institutionalizing racism and prejudice. It is dehumanizing, and it is absolutely anti-American. And they will have people argue about everything except the root question in that courtroom. Is prejudice constitutional? And the answer is no. It is not. Institutional racism is not constitutional. That's the only answer you can get to. Everything else is fluff. Everything else is trying to hide that core question, which is what the Supreme Court decided.
Well, unfortunately for half the people in this country, that's just not good enough.
It's not.
Now the question is, how long has affirmative action been in place for the colleges?
Since the 70s.
All right, so the 70s. So now we're dealing on 40, 50 years.
Roughly. Mm-hmm.
Weren't the strides met? Weren't the goals met in that 40
Yes.
to 50 years?
Yes, we've hit every one of the
so
targets.
what the fuck are they complaining about still?
I don't know.
It's this constant need to divide people.
Mm-hmm.
It's this constant need to divide people.
Think about it. The arguments they like to make is, well, we have to increase the Congress is diversified and it's proportional to the populations in the country. Middle class is proportional to the number to the different races in this nation. Education is proportional to the number of people in this nation. We already hit the goal of affirmative action in every one of the categories. They want more. Well, here's a simple question. What is the target? What is the number? How much of this forced diversity, this prejudice and bias, how much of it do you want before you say it's enough?
Well, the next is going to be the Dylan Mulvaney Scholarship Fund.
Oh, did you hear that he's got major backlash against Bud Light right now?
Yeah.
He's like chewing them out.
Mulvaney?
Yes.
Yeah. All of a sudden, he's mad at them for not standing with him stronger and not making him their official spokesperson.
They already lost. They lost their first place status. They've lost tens of billions of dollars. They lost their long-term Bud Light drinkers. What else do they need to lose?
Look, they're going to go through the Disneyfication. Look at what Disney has dropped down to now. Disney destroyed themselves purposely. They're destroying themselves for the woke agenda. And they're not going to see. You got to remember too, leftists hate big corporations, so they'll shame them out of business by not making them do their bidding. Oh, you're not gonna do it. Okay, well then you're gonna suffer and you're gonna die on the vine, and that'll be it, and that'll be fine with us because after all, you're a big corporation anyway, and we already hate you. You know, we used your pandering to destroy you. And now we got what we want anyway. One less big corporation. So they're going to be happy to destroy Anheuser-Busch. They're going to be happy to destroy Disney. They're going to be happy to destroy CNN, NBC, and all the rest of it because they're all big corporations. No matter how close to the agenda they stick, they're still the enemy. But remember, last one to feed the alligator winds up on the menu.
I can't stand it. No, they don't care. But look at all this stuff. It's like we have members of Congress who happen to be black and women, both individually and together, that are complaining about, affirmative action. We need more racism and prejudice. You are a member of Congress. You're senators. You got a vice president. You got a president who got elected twice. We got business owners. I don't understand this. Oh, we've lost it all. It's all going away.
I think the argument that came out that I laughed out the most was, I don't remember in the article who said it because it was a couple of days ago, and I've read so many articles since then. But they said that, of course, blaming it on Republicans, and Republicans are being racist. And the Republicans, if you look at their history, have never done anything good for the black people.
That's stupid.
And as I'm reading this, I'm going, this person needs a history lesson because everything that has happened law-wise within the black community has been because of the Republicans.
Yes.
And Democrats have refused to vote yes on any of it.
Yes,
But
that's correct.
they're the ones who claim that they care the most about black people.
Without doing
Yeah,
anything for black people.
They care the most about black people. That's why the majority of Planned Parenthood operations function in minority neighborhoods. That's why the federal government decided that it was best to have the black father be removed from the house and replace him with a stipend from the government, and encourage black women to have more children out of wedlock and pay them more money to do so, so long as the black father was kept out. And then, decided, well, what are they going to do? Well, let's start passing some laws so that we can take, now that the black fathers are out of the home, let's figure out a way how to erase them from the picture. And let's pass laws so that we incarcerate more black men at a higher rate with longer prison sentences for minuscule crimes, so that one day a rapper can get 5 years in prison because he made a mistake on his 4473 form, and we can have the vice president's son who lied on his 4473 form get probation. This has been, look, Democrats are long-term ball players. They have been trying to destroy, they couldn't keep them as slaves, so the next thing they could do was destroy the black family. You look at what the prosperity numbers in the 1930s and 20s, 30s, and 40s were among black Americans in the United States, and they were doing much better than what they were in the 1960s. Until the federal government broke up the home in black families, you had a 70 to 80% marital rate in black families with children. Now you're getting a 60% abortion rate in black families. There was a billboard in New York City that said the most dangerous place for a black baby to be is in the womb. These are policies that were encouraged by Margaret Sanger, who sat in the White House with Woodrow Wilson while he played Birth of a Nation.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to turn around and tell me, oh, the Democrats care about the black community. No, they don't. They don't. They only care about keeping them close enough to vote for them so long as they pay them something for it. They don't want to see black Americans prosperous, because then when a black American family is prosperous, they own a home, they own a couple of cars, they got good jobs, they start looking around and they start saying to themselves, wait a second, we have traditional beliefs. We believe in traditional values. I don't want to see 40% of my pay going to a government to support policies I don't like. The worst thing for Democrats is a successful black family, because a successful black family becomes a conservative black family, because they start voting with more than just what's given to them. They vote for their best interests. And that's the last thing the Democrats want to see happen.
Well, I've got some news on women front and the gay front. On the woman front, I don't know if you guys heard, it came out on the 28th that the Cervical Cancer Fund suggests calling vaginas bonus holes to avoid offending transgenders.
What? Bonus hole?
Another
what is
way
that, a fucking game on The Price is Right? If you get the disc in the bonus hole, we give you a free car.
You can't make this shit up.
Nope, you can't. So it's another way to cancel women to further the agenda of trans people.
I don't have words for this. I really.
Yeah, this just came out on the 28th.
Well,
and it's the Cervical Cancer Trust.
It's such a dystopian view today. How so many are blinded by the fact that
listen.
So many people that are claiming to be for this, that, or the other are actually enacting policies that are destroying them, and these people believe that they're the best ones for them.
I do not understand how
I
they
mean,
get
this
these.
affirmative action ruling is one of the best rulings that could have came out of, as in my opinion, one of the best rulings that could have came out of the Supreme Court. And one of the reasons why is because it will actually incentivize Hispanics, blacks, and others to achieve their best. Okay, and I believe that I don't care what your skin color is. I don't care what your gender is. I honestly don't care. Because honestly, if you are capable of doing it, which pretty much all of us are, if you are capable of doing it, then you shouldn't need any special privileges to make it so that you can do it.
All right. Listen, when I'm going to share something here.
Rachel Dolans. Ooh, my favorite.
When this woman is the NAACP Woman of the Year.
Trans-racist or trans-racist.
And she's a white woman wearing blackface.
Yes.
I knew then that I should have built a big fucking magnet on the roof of my house and tried to attract the nearest meteor to just come and end it. Because this to me was the sign of the apocalypse. This was already, all right, we've gone down a rabbit hole we shouldn't be going down anymore. And then we wind up getting men receiving awards from the National Organization of Women for being outstanding women. Woman of the Year. Got testicles, got a penis, but that's the Woman of the Year. The best black lady in America is a white woman. The best woman in America is a man. What is wrong with this world? I don't understand you anymore.
I got another one for you guys. I said I had a couple stories. Michigan today passes bill that can make using wrong pronouns a felony, finable up to $10,000 and jail.
Yeah.
We knew that was coming.
Let Gretchen Whitmarsh, or whatever the hell her name is over there, let her try. Let's see if that'll pass constitutional muster. The only problem is somebody's going to be out that 10 grand and spend time in jail and have to wait 7 years for it to get to the Supreme Court. Where are the activist judges now that are going to look at that law as soon as it gets signed and say, no, this is bullshit, it's unconstitutional? They do it every time that conservatives want to pass a law. You get 65 activist judges jump up on the bench and say, no, I'm overruling that law. You know, they pass a law in Iowa and some judge in Chicago says it's unconstitutional. He changes what Iowa says. Where are the judges going to be that say, hey, no, listen, you can't criminalize speech. You also can't criminalize fact. You cannot compel somebody to state something other than what they know to be true. It's called coercion. You can't tell me that you're going to have me testify against somebody in a court of law and you're going to give me my statement and tell me this is what you're going to say. It's called coercion. You can't do that. How do you now going to turn around and coerce an entire state of people to say, if you call a man who address a man, you're going to go to jail for it? How is that even remotely going to pass muster? You think a judge would have got wind of this bill as it was working its way through and stepped in and say, hey, listen, if you try and pass this bullshit, I'm just gonna overrule you. So don't even start. But again, it's not because they want to pass the bill. It's because they want to pander to a group. They want to pander to a group so they can get the vote because they know the bill's going to get overturned if it becomes a law. They know what's going to happen. You know, but they don't care. They don't care. It's all about the pander.
I was talking to Michael before the show went live. You know that the Supreme Court ruled on another case too this week. They ruled on the web designer from Colorado who refused to make a website for same sex.
No, because you have to obey. You must always obey.
No, they ruled in favor of the web designer, just like under the First Amendment. Just like there's no way they could have ruled against it because they already had precedent from the baker from Colorado.
Right, which is why that lawsuit should have against the web designer should have never even made it to the court, because they already ruled on a case based on the same precedent.
Exactly.
It should have never gotten that far to begin with.
No, but you need they need motivation for 2024. The case has to move forward so that Democrats have a reason to motivate the progressives to come out and vote.
But then there's a lot of them out there in the community. Well, it's not the LGB part of the community. It's the TQI. Notice I changed my thing, Frank. Did you notice I changed my thing, Frank?
Yes. I changed mine too, if you notice mine.
Yes. So of course the left and all the progressive gays are out there screaming about how we won in court again, because the Supreme Court did decline to hear a case about gender dysphoria and it being allowed under the Disabilities Act. And I was telling Mike that, well, it just proves that it's a mental health issue.
Yeah, well, I'm just at such a loss.
You're not the only one.
It's the world is just gone absolutely friggin' mad. Absolutely mad. And I'm a pretty imaginative guy, and I can't imagine what's coming next. I can't imagine what's coming next. It was, just as a little side note. Did you see the story about this Rhode Island state senator that keyed up the car of some guy in a parking lot because the guy's car had Biden sucks bumper sticker on it? They got the guy on video doing it. He's on video, clear as day, walking past this guy's car and scraping the shit out of it with his keys. The guy who owns the car recognizes him as a state senator, calls him out on it. Guy goes into the building to do what he's doing, calls the cops. The cops show up. The guy denies it up one side and down another. And he says, I walked by his car, but I didn't do anything to it. And then he calls the guy a gun nut at least 4 times on video. Calls the guy a gun. I thought he was one of these gun nuts. All right. If you think somebody's a gun nut, don't fuck with their shit. Okay, that's rule number 1. If you're afraid of somebody because you think the guy's got a gun, don't fuck with the guy's property. Okay, that's one thing you want to maybe use your brain. Anyway, the owner of the truck pursues it, has the guy and goes to the police station. They bring the video cassette from the parking lot from the surveillance system, shows the guy clear as day doing it. Presses charges. They go over and the police finally show up and he admits to it. And the cops are like, well, we can do this. The guy wants to press charges. He probably, and the cops are over there, playing games with this guy. He only wants you to make restitution. It'll go away. Let me ask you a question. If I'm walking through a parking lot and I see somebody with the pride bump, with the rainbow sticker with the extra colors all over it, and I decide I'm gonna, smash the car or scrape it or key it up or whatever, what do you think I'm gonna get charged with?
Oh, you're going to jail.
Yeah.
Under what charge?
hate crime.
There you go. There you go. I'm going to go to jail because it's a hate crime. It's a hate crime because now I might not have seen the rainbow flag. I might just not like the guy's car. Maybe he parked too close to me. Maybe I didn't like the way he parked. Maybe I don't like the way he was dressed. Maybe I don't like the color of his car, whatever it is. I don't even have to ever say that I did it because there was a rainbow sticker on the car. The fact that there's a rainbow sticker on the car, I'm precluded. They're going to assume that I committed that act as a hate crime, and I'm going to be prosecuted for it. This guy admits to doing it because he thinks the guy is probably a gun nut.
Which is hateful.
Why? All right, now, this guy vandalized somebody's private property. He's a state senator from Rhode Island, vandalizes the property of somebody that he believes is of the opposite political ideology. Why is he not being charged with a hate crime?
Two-tiered justice system.
Because we don't get justice on our side of the fence. We are not part of the protected class. Vass, Jan, neither of you, even though each of you can check a box, your boxes are therefore erased because your political ideology does not line up with the perceived notion of what your demographic says it should be. So you will never be afforded the luxury of being in that protected class unless they can figure out a way how to expunge everything from your history that shares your political ideology. Jan, if somebody ever did something to you, the media will turn around and say, you are a community leader for the ABC, GFQ, whatever the hell initials they want to put in there, and they'll wind up photoshopping you in some sort of pride parade, gyrating next to somebody with a little kid. Just to you part of that community. That's AI. They'll find a picture of you with your fist raised in the air with an afro on your head. You're part of the the Black Panther Party, so that you can get qualified. But it'll never happen because you both have a history. Somebody does something to me, I'm a number. Somebody does something to Marshall, he's a number. He don't matter. I don't matter. But this Democrat is going to get away with having to pay a $750 fine to get the guy's car painted, and he'll wind up never losing his job. He'll keep his seat in Congress. I wrote to the Rhode Island Judiciary Committee and asked them, what is your view on this? Why is he not being charged with a hate crime? They blocked me.
What?
They blocked me.
You.
Yeah. Rhode Island Judiciary Committee, the Rhode Island Senatorial Judicial Committee blocked me because I dared ask why one of their members is not going to be charged with a hate crime. Now, we only got a few minutes before 11 o'clock, and I can't stay on much longer tonight. I got some things I need to take care of.
Absolutely.
Going into this evening. I got a long couple of days ahead of me. But I've been doing everything I can this week to try and keep my mind clear, and trying to do some research, trying to do some reading, and trying to make sense of this friggin' world, because nothing in my life right now makes a whole hell of a lot of sense. Try and make some sense of what this is, what the hell's going on in some way, shape, or form as to why the hell this world is going nuts. And if you come up with a clue, please let me know. Let me know where the hell we're going, because I have no clue. I'm completely and totally lost now as far as, what's going on in this world. The up is down, down is up, left and right are switched positions, and I don't understand what the hell is going on.
It's all a move to make us all automatons.
Pretty much.
We can't think. We all have to think alike. We all must abide and comply with the latest from all up on high. And if we fail to do so, then we are malfunctioning and we are removed.
Well, that's the
Okay,
whole point.
that's literally what it's coming to.
Yeah. Well, I just want to share this real quick for everybody. This is the article that I've been uploading this whole time while we were on. And what's one of the key things here? I want everyone to know. I don't want you to take my word for it. I have all the links of everything that I went into to go and describe this. So I want people to see this, and you can see the links, including the statement from the Supreme Court. So you can find it very easily now. And like you're saying, Mike, this is about, you have to accept Sotomayor, the AOC, Cori Bush. You have to accept their position on racism, and it is okay. They are approving. If you are a Democrat or progressive, you are now in the position of saying prejudice and bias is good. Frank, you're right. The world is topsy-turvy. I grew up in a world where we had come to the conclusion that racism, prejudice, bias were bad things. It's the whole reason why All in the Family existed on TV, why Archie Bunker was supposed to be a joke, supposed to be. And now we are reaffirming everything about that. This is insulting, people. We really need to, if you agree with the left on this, you are literally supporting racism. You are literally saying that you do not think for yourself.
And while you guys are out there, give a call or an email to the Rhode Island House.
Yes.
Or to the district attorney up in Rhode Island and ask them, hey, why isn't this guy Joshua Miller being charged with a hate crime after vandalizing a conservative's vehicle? And then denying about it and lying to police. Because not only did he deny that he did it, he lied to the police when they confronted him about it. It wasn't until they notified him, oh, by the way, we have you on video doing it. He lied. Look at this smug prick. He's over there, big smile on his face, arms crossed. Oh, he's so proud of himself, for what he did. And that's his mugshot right next to it, taken the same night. Not so smug then. But he's not going to lose his job in the state Senate. He's not going to get censured. He's not going to get penalized. He's not going to get, any reprimand or anything for his actions because the people don't give a shit. The people don't give a shit. If we can start getting a couple of hundred people to start calling the district attorney's office in that county and say, hey, listen, doesn't this constitute a hate crime under Rhode Island penal law? I looked it up. It does. But they're not charging him with that. Even though he could be and should be, they're not charging him with that. Marshall, you're always an advocate of saying you got to do things at the local level, right?
Yep.
Rhode Island's a small state. Don't you going to get more local than that?
That's a great place to start.
Let's see if we can't get this little smug prick charged with something more than just him having to do a day's worth of community service at the local soup kitchen that his policies probably cause the people to be poor and in need of it anyway.
And the funny thing is he'll use that for a campaign ad.
Yeah.
About how he volunteers at soup kitchens.
Yeah, he. Oh, not only is he's going to show his altruism for having to volunteer, but he's also going to play the victim that he was maliciously prosecuted by a MAGA nut over a pre-existing scratch on his car that he was, framed for committing the crime. It'll be some bullshit. Well, listen, I'm gonna jump off here. I'm gonna let you guys close up the show, have as much discussion as you want to know. I made mention in the last couple of weeks that my mom wasn't doing very well, and this Wednesday morning at 1 a.m., I lost my mom. And if you notice that my backdrop in my audio and everything is not what it usually is because I'm currently in Staten Island in her apartment as I'm helping my sister make my mom's final arrangements. My mom, I can't tell you what she meant to me and everybody else in my life because there aren't enough words to express it. It's a role that could never be filled by somebody else. I am blessed to have had my mom for all my life. And my mom, it appears she lost a battle that she never knew she had to fight. None of us saw it coming. We knew that things were, you get older, there's a history of dementia in my family, the history of other problems. But what she had came completely out of the blue, and we're still trying to research exactly why it happened. And we have a pretty good clue as to why. And a lot of Americans have been suffering from the same thing. My mom required at least a dozen units of blood in the last week or two of her life. And my mom wasn't cognizant of much for the last week or so. But I know what my mom wanted when her time would come. And a lot of people have contacted me asking about sending flowers and cards and stuff like that. And the gesture is appreciated. They'd be lovely to look at. But if you want to make an impact in somebody's life, there were three things that my mom would request that people do in lieu of flowers or anything else like that. If you were going to send flowers, instead, make a donation to the St. Jude Children's Hospital. Having lost children in my family, we know how important it is that St. Jude and the Danny Thomas Foundation are and the work that they do. If you can't afford to make a donation of cash, make a donation of yourself and become a blood donor. Blood is the most critical thing that we're in need of in this country in the medical community, even more so than organs, because blood is a lot more universal. And people tend to need blood more than they need organs. My mom needed quite a bit of it. And if you can't donate blood and you can't donate cash, if you have room in your heart and you have room in your home, please consider adopting an animal. When I say goodbye to my mom on Monday, she'll be laid to rest with the remains of Brutus, Cleo, and Misty, our family's 3 dogs. They looked over my parents in life. They'll look over them in the afterworld. And if you have ever had the love of an animal, you know how important they can be to your peace and your comfort in this life or the next. So if you can, pick one of those 3 things and make my mom proud. So with that, I'm going to say goodnight to you guys. I hope next week I'm a little bit more together, because right now I am not doing too good this week. It's been rough. But just want to let you guys know I love you guys. I've gotten a lot of support and condolences from everybody in the community. I appreciate it. I love you all. And as usual, you guys be safe and shoot straight.
Absolutely.
You guys have a good night. Love you guys.
Love you too,
Have a
Frank.
good night, Frank.
Yeah, that's a heavy blow to all of our family.
It is.
And maybe, hug your kids, Look at your mom and dad before you go to sleep tonight. Say a prayer if they're not close enough to give them a hug. Time is too short.
It is.
I've been really enjoying his stories on Facebook. Did you guys see the one that he posted about Ray Charles?
I didn't see that one. No.
Oh my God, that is hilarious. You have to go back and look for it. His mom kidnapped Ray Charles, basically.
We can see where Frank gets it from.
Yep.
That's funny. That's
Yeah,
funny.
my heart goes out to him.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's somber.
It's been a hard few months for Frank with his mom. I remember when he was agonizing about moving down to North Carolina from New York, and whether or not his mom was going to be cared for. And at one time, he was going to move his mom down there with him. Before that was planned, before he actually moved to North Carolina, but his mom didn't want to be taken away from everything that she knew. So he made the move from North Carolina, and his sister started helping with caring for his mom. And Frank's been really agonizing because he hasn't been able to be there as much as he would have liked over the past few months. So, I mean,
After the fact, you're always, and this is why I say everyone should hug or call or have in their prayers their loved ones, because you'll always agonize afterwards. It's never enough.
it's been, like I said, it's been a rough few months for him.
Yeah. It's tough. And then we have the nice thing, the only positive, and I say this to everyone if they have lost someone they love, is remember, they're okay. We have to deal with the dumb crap that's going on every day. We have to deal with all the stuff we've been talking about in this episode and so many others. We have the rough road ahead of us. They're at peace. And that's a beautiful thing. They're okay. We've got to deal with it, but they're okay. They're beautiful people. You got a better afro than I ever had.
No.
And a full life. She lived a full life.
She did. And it almost got cut short.
Yeah.
Frank's got quite a tell about how he came into this world. And I mean, it's quite a story. And one of these days, we'll have to get him to share his full story on one of the episodes.
Most definitely. When I heard that story, he was on another podcast when I heard him share that story, and it just blew me away.
Yeah. I actually taped him live talking about it in front of an audience. Actually, that's when I met Frank. And the room was just dead silent. It was just, people were amazed. It's a beautiful story.
It's an incredible story. It really is. I've been privileged to be in a similar situation of what Michael was just describing when we did an event in Ohio, and Frank told that story. It will get you.
Yeah.
That is for sure. And so, with that,
Well, I think on that note, guys, we should call it a night.
yeah. On that note, we are going to wish Frank the best. Wish him Godspeed in dealing with what he has to deal with at home. And remember, none of us knows when our last moment on this earth is. So we need to live every second in trying to create a world that future generations, that we would be proud to pass on to future generations. Okay. That's what Frank's mom did, what his dad did, Frank's continuing legacy, and that's what we all need to be doing. And you say that you don't do politics or any of these other things, but maybe we need to start understanding that a big part of the reason why we are in the conditions that we are in today is because too many people say, I don't do politics.
Hmm.
So I'm just going to leave you with that.
Yeah.
This week.
Yeah.
Okay. We will see you again next week, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Every Friday night, we have a round stream. We do thank everybody that is watching, everybody that's in the chat. We thank you for your input. We will continue the fight. We will continue to make you all aware of what's going on. And we need to understand we are the catalyst for change. Now, I'm not talking the Liberty First Foundation. I'm talking we the people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's how the United States started. That is what brought a new form of government to light, was we the people. We are the catalyst for change. And without us, the change that we are going to see, we are not going to be, we won't like it. Plain and simple. There's a reason why the framers and the founders created the documents that they did and sought to create a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. We need to continue their legacy. We'll see you again next week. Thank you, everybody.
I just want to say, I think it's important that we acknowledge Tuesday, Independence Day.
Oh, yes.
Actually, no. The true Independence Day, and I was actually going to bring this up tonight, and it totally slipped my mind. It's actually July 2nd. Okay. Independence was passed and brought forth by the Continental Congress on July 2nd. It was sent to England on July 4th, but our actual day of independence is July 2nd, not on July 4th.
Well, either way, celebrate.
Recognized as July 4th.
Celebrate, understand, and remember that why we fought for our freedoms and for then, and why we need to fight for it now.
And I want to bring up one other thing. In another 3 years, it will be a quarter of a millennium that this country was established.
Yeah.
Okay. So we will be at our 250th birth of our nation. Okay. So let's start working towards bringing back principles that this country was founded upon. Okay. Good night, everybody. We may be having a special broadcast. I'm going to be working on some stuff. We may have a special broadcast on July 2nd, the actual Independence Day. And we will probably be doing something on July 4th as well. Stay tuned to us on Facebook, and you should receive updates there. Thank you, everybody.
Night.